the African continent. 3 service divisions operate within AFGRI Grain Management. With specialist attention to detail, you can rest assured that the best in the industry is handling storage, marketing and procurement on your behalf. With each sunrise, AFGRI Grain Handling and Storage serves to protect your precious harvest. For outsiders, grain production's toil may be hard to comprehend, but we understand. Every day's work and every decision you've taken culminates in the harvest. To reap the full benefits of your labor, we ensure that the integrity of your harvest remains untainted, stored separately according to quality and grade. To farm sustainably, we know that getting your product to the market is an essential part of the production cycle. And that is why AFGRI Grain Marketing focuses on the procurement and sale of agricultural commodities. We offer various tailor-made marketing solutions as we stand by you to help make the best possible pricing decisions morning, noon and night, whether you buy or sell grain, irrespective of your trading location. AFGRI Raw Material Procurement completes the circle. Through this division, AFGRI Grain Management supplies products and solutions to the grain milling and crushing industries in Africa. Innovation is at the core of AFGRI's philosophy, and through AFGRI's e-accounts online platform, you have convenient access to storage and procurement information within a few clicks and keystrokes. With this technology at your disposal, it's easy to keep tabs on costs and contracts. We have your interest at heart, and because we value you, we've invested in you. As such, our infrastructure was expanded to accommodate 2017's record harvest, which peaked at more than 86,000 tons a day. Our current storage capacity exceeds 5 million tons. As the sun sets on another day, we'll keep turning the odds in your favor by staying at the forefront of silo inventory management technology and by maximizing the economic value of your commodity through tailor-made pricing mechanisms. AFGRI Grain Management, your partner for generations.
One of the essential contributing factors to successful farming is quality equipment. And at Afgri Equipment, we've got you covered. Afgri Equipment is the preeminent agricultural and golf and turf equipment retailer in sub-Saharan Africa and Western Australia. Because you place your trust and your capital in our equipment, we make sure that we maintain the high performance levels you need no matter what to keep you going on your farm. Equipment, parts, service. Afgri Equipment, your partner for generations. In 1963, the then cooperative entered into an agency agreement with John Deere, which has since grown to be the single largest distributor of John Deere equipment in Southern Africa and Western Australia. This means we have been associated with John Deere for more than 50 years. We offer the world's leading equipment brands backed by a business model equal to the products we sell. Through a network of 40 strategically placed equipment branches, Afgri Equipment supplies a wide range of equipment to primary producers in all agricultural sectors, from tractors, combines, TLBs and telehandlers, to wheeled loaders, planters, balers, sprayers and mowers. Afgri Equipment is a leader in the field of precision agriculture, offering one-stop solutions for integrated technologies. Our skilled team will make the connection between your current farming operation and your farm of the future. We also supply John Deere ride-on lawnmowers and John Deere Gator utility vehicles for recreational use and wherever you need a good workhorse. Afgri Equipment supplies a comprehensive range of golf course and commercial ground care equipment. At Afgri Equipment, we pride ourselves on our excellent after-sales service. Our modern workshop facilities are well equipped to repair and service all of the equipment we sell. What's more, to ensure that you're up and running in no time, we also operate a large fleet of mobile service vehicles to service and repair your equipment on your farm. Afgri Equipment has highly trained and motivated service personnel. We invest in their future and our service promise to you with a well-developed apprentice training program. Annually, our technicians take top honors in John Deere's Technician of the Year competition. No machine can function without a reliable supply of spare parts. We strive to make parts as accessible as possible with our internet-based parts ordering option available to customers. In a world of fast-paced technological development, you need a partner that understands your business environment and the complex operations that need to be maintained on your farm. Wherever you are in South Africa, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Ghana or Western Australia, you'll find an Afgri Equipment branch to meet your needs. As an international supplier of mechanized equipment, our business is rooted in respectability and reliability. We're here to ensure your productivity and promise to keep on delivering new levels of innovation on your farm. 1,250 employees, more than 240 service vehicles, 285 qualified service technicians, 40 strategically placed branches worldwide. These figures are testament of our commitment to your success. And we're still expanding our service offering. Equipment, parts, service. Afgri Equipment, your partner for generations.
A deep nostalgia stirred in the communal consciousness, yearning to regain the lost but not forgotten paradise. Do you remember the vetkoeken mince from the church bazaar and the fish and chips from the corner cafe, wrapped up in newspaper? Do you remember the weekend trips with your grandpa to the co-op? After all these years, nothing has changed. Hinterland, rediscover what matters. Hinterland brings you everything you fondly remember and so much more. We've also kept with the times and a rapidly developing world to bring you an even better experience. Hinterland has 64 retail branches in 6 provinces and is committed to keep on building relationships and forge new bonds with its customers. We believe in teamwork, consolidation, and expansion, in the improvement of infrastructure, negotiations, accessibility, reliability, and in tailor-made solutions. That is our vision. It's our personal long-term strategic partnerships which make it possible to serve our clients' needs on every level. Our customers can reap the benefits from this trust relationship fueled by loyalty. Economies of scale, collective buying power, and effective cost management ensures that our customers gain the maximum benefit to do profitable business. A healthy relationship is based on mutual respect, honesty, and sincerity. We strive to also build such a long-term relationship with you. To reach this goal, we stay in touch with our customers through various communication channels. This ensures that everyone stays informed about new products, developments, and special offers. We are also eager to hear from you and learn about your needs. We welcome suggestions to improve your shopping experience even more. Hinterland is the gathering place for farmers and every city dweller with a home and garden. A one-stop shop for everyone. Our product ranges include a full range of farm supplies, input supplies like seed, fertilizer, and crop protection, fuel, animal health products, and animal feed. We also supply irrigation, outdoor products, DIY supplies, guns and ammunition, as well as garden and hardware products. Hinterland ensures that our customers have full access to these products across the board. Hinterland reaches beyond customer relationships and extends this bond to local communities. At grassroots level, we are involved in various community upliftment projects in local communities. Hinterland is also one of the proud sponsors of the Agricultural Conversation Initiative, Nation in Conversation. This platform for dialogue was created to improve the image of agriculture by having hard-hitting conversation and eventually to reach workable solutions to the various challenges facing agriculture today. You see, through the years, a lot has changed, but still so much stayed the same. At Hinterland, experience meets innovation. Come, rediscover what matters.
Our family has been living on this farm for more than 150 years. Farming is in my blood, and ever since I was a little boy, I always dreamed of being just like my dad. Even if that meant waking up at the break of dawn to work the fields, waiting up all night with a lamb, working a 72-hour week, and yet despite this, having time to bring the family together. Farming is a part of me. It's my home, our family business. Occasionally, the way I do things around here is met with a confused look. As an AFGRI client, AFGRI e-accounts can manage the entire farm's business, finance and planning right here on one affordable and easy-to-use platform. It's secure, instant, convenient, and I can access it.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Goeiemôre, dames en heren. Welcome to this last session of Nation and Conversation. I'm Francois Strydom. I'm the CEO of the Senwes Group. Welcome to our students and our learners. This is always the best day for me when I see the young faces enthused by agriculture. You're most welcome here. And as always, you need to feel luister na wat die groot mense sê. Do as you please. I want you to tweet and go mad. So thank you for attending. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for media players, our sponsors for being here. The panel members today, Andile, you're an old friend of Nation and Conversation. I look forward to the session. And of course, Dan Crick. And I'll introduce Dan now, and I'll call him up just in a while. Dan is the president of Agri SA. Very important position given our time frame. Dan is a young face with a new vision, and I look forward to what Dan is going to tell us today. The agricultural community recognizes ordinary people that does extraordinary things. And a good example of that is the two young men that sits in the front here. You will remember there was a horrifying train accident in December last year in the Free State. And these two boys stood up to be counted. They did extraordinary things. I am very proud of them. We used them in our Senwes ad. You'll see them, but Dan will give them special recognition in a while. So please tweet, retweet, post at NIC 2018 and follow us at Nation and Conversation or Nation Converse. At this point, I would also like to recognize Werner Ronel of Stereo Republic, who hosted this is the 6th year, and their crew. They've been absolutely outstanding and magnificent. So thank you. Just give them recognition. Stereo Republic. And of course my own marketing team, Johan Grobler and his whole team. They sit here every day, they're everywhere, they organize it. Thank you for your exceptional work that you've done. So at this point, Dan, I'd like to call you up, say a few words, and I'll help you to hand over the certificates to the two young boys.
Thank you, Francois. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed for me, this is a special occasion. And Francois, I don't know why somebody with hair like mine, but I guess young is on the right side of 50, and I'm still on the right side of 50, so I'll count myself among the young people. We also heard the news about the train accident. We saw the program on Kwela, on what these two boys did. And then you also made an advertisement about that. And we are here to honor them in a very special way because with an act of kindness and bravery, they absolutely captivated the imagination of South Africans. And it is in an example like that that they actually lead us in what we as grown-ups and adults in South Africa should be doing. So that is why this is so special for me, and I'm gonna hand them something special that maybe they could that we could honor them with. So, Ernst, I'm just going to read one because it's the same for both two boys. So Agri SA gee hiermee erkenning aan. Ernst, is dit Ernst of Ernst? Ewert. Nou, hoekom het hulle dit so hier geskryf? Ons gaan hierdie vir jou moet regmaak, hoor. Maar jy gaan maar vandag net moet smile vir die kamera en maak of dit reg is. Vir hulle heldhaftige optrede op 4 Januarie 2018 tydens die treinongeluk naby die Genève-stasie tussen Henneman en Kroonstad, waar hulle vasgekeerde slagoffers uit die treinwrak help bevry het. Die onselfsugtige optrede van die plaasseuns is kenmerkend van die gees van sorgsaamheid wat eie is aan die boerderygemeenskap. Agri SA gee hiermee erkenning vir hulle positiewe impak wat hulle op 'n besondere dag aan slagoffers van die treinongeluk se lewens gemaak het, en ons ken dit dan nou vandag toe. So ek gaan nou dit aan hulle oorhandig. Dis vir my regtig spesiaal. Ek dink julle twee is 'n voorbeeld vir baie mense. Ek hoop julle vriendskap hou vir julle hele lewenslank, en julle is vir ons 'n voorbeeld van hoe mense sommer net besluit op die ingewing van die oomblik wat is die regte ding om te doen, wat is die brawe ding om te doen, en dit is wat dit is om 'n Suid-Afrikaner te wees. So baie geluk, baie dankie van ons almal, en ek gaan nou hierdie François weer teruggee, met vir julle oorhandig, en dan wil ek graag hê julle moet net ietsie sê, en lyk my hulle gaan sommer Sotho ook praat. So we gaan nog iets om te wys wat ons as Suid-Afrikaners is.
Dumelang. Ke tlile monana ke tlo le bolella ditaba tse monate. Mokgotsi wa ka ke ona ke tlile le yena hore re tlo le bolella ditaba tse monate. Nna le yena AC ya bona re bapala monate, re tjhaya ditlhapi. Nako nngwe re ya letamong re lo bapala, re nka tente re lo robala moo. Le yena ba dumela a ba re lo palama dipere. No tjenana ke tlo le bolella ditaba tse monate hore mokgotsi wa ka ke yena a tlo thusa ho bua, hobane ke mo rata haholo.
Hallo allemaal. Dankie baie vir ons speech, waardeer dit. Hallo allemaal, ek sê oor die pre en dis mo koni chaka. Hina ke tile mona ke rata mona batho ba re thusa monate mona. Ke le bua le bontate kaofela le bomme le re thusang tjena ka plasing jwale ba itseng traini ke sona batho ba shwileng. En re ba thusitse. Ke batlo ore thank you and I happen tate. And for all of you that are here, I thank you.
Wow, thank you very much to Francois, thank you very much to Dan, and of course to the two very tough boys. Congratulations, chaps, well done on a very brave move, and it's an example to all of us that are here. Welcome all to the last session indeed, as Francois already said, here at Nampo Harvest Day 2018. My name is Andile Khumalo. I will be hosting this particular panel. I've got 6 very smart panelists, which means they have a lot to say. And I have a full room as well on my right-hand side. Thanks to you guys for coming through. It is my intention to ensure that we get as much from them as possible, but also that you yourselves have also an opportunity to weigh in with your comments and your questions and anything you'd like to say around this very important theme. The reason we're here is to talk about youth, the role of young people in agriculture. And the real question comes through because there's a lot happening in our country around the question of land reform. There's a lot happening in our country around the question of transformation, food security, and job creation. However, the agricultural sector itself is going through its own changes. We're going to be hearing a lot of information coming, especially from the 3 economists that we are very fortunate to have on our panel to talk about global trends, about what is happening when it comes to young people coming into this particular sector. What is the average age of farmers around our own country? And what is it that perhaps is holding back young people from joining this particular sector? Is it not sexy enough? Is it not cool enough? And we're going to try and explore all of these things and try to get to some solutions. And of course, I guess for some of the young people in the room, the other question is, how do we make sure that you got opportunities to be in this particular sector as well? And where do you start and how do you get in, whether you are black or white? So as I've already said, 6 very smart people. We've also brought the rose amongst the thorns here on my left in Nono. And I'm going to allow all of my panelists to introduce themselves, tell you what they do and who they are, and maybe some opening comments and thoughts around this issue of how do we create more access for young people in agriculture. Nono, I'm going to start with you.
Hi, Andile. Thank you for this opportunity, and hello everyone in the audience. So my name is Nono Sekgoto. I'm a commercial farmer. I'm based in the Free State, right here, so in Senegal, not far from here. And I guess you could call me, what I've become is a young farmers activist. I've been doing a couple of interesting things, really just understanding and trying to find out where are all the youth, are there any youth, so that we can see if there's any way for us to assist. So my other role is that I am at African Farmers Association of South Africa, and I sit on the National Executive Council as the AFASA Youth Chairperson. So that's the main reason why it was important for me to understand, is there actually youth in the sector? We do focus on looking for emerging farmers, which are predominantly black farmers, but as I said, young farmers. So my opening thought around youth in agriculture is that based on the 7 years that I've had in the industry, I really believe there is youth already participating at various levels of the sector. But I think when you zoom into farming, one thing that really just I think is important for us to do is to really understand how it is that we support these farmers so that we can actually elevate them and showcase them to show other youth that actually there are opportunities in this industry and you can actually succeed in this industry. But unfortunately, that won't be done if there isn't the appropriate support for these young farmers. So for me, that's really around that discussion that I really want us to focus on, is really that it's really about finding the appropriate support so that we can get them elevated. So
now you though, as a young woman, I know that you had a career before farming. You were well on your way of a successful banking career, and then you dropped the boardroom and the aircon for the beauty of soil and animals. So talk to us about how you got in and why. Why did you get in?
Okay, so the reason is, I never really planned to. My father had bought a farm a couple of years ago, so it's 10 years ago, and he had been nagging me, come help me, because I've got a financial background. He was like, come do my finances and then you'll see. But to be quite honest, I was like, what am I going to do there? Because I had no idea that I could really build a career in agriculture, especially on the farm. It made no sense. Right. But, so things happened where I was, and it turned out that, it gave me an opportunity to go see. And I was absolutely amazed at what I learned on the farm, just really understanding how I can add value with what I already have. Because I didn't have an agricultural background, right, but I already had my financial skills. Right. And that's very relevant no matter where you go. And so it was really up to me to really understand where I could plug in and actually run a business that I could also, be proud of and be part of. And that's where I started. But I think what made it even more interesting is when I actually figured out what's happening in the industry at large. Farming is just a piece of the agricultural sector. And when I really, opened up myself to what was going on outside, and then through AFASA, I've been able to travel the world. I even met the Pope last week. If I was a banker sitting in Sandton, in my aircon, there'll be no opportunity for me to be traveling and to be meeting really interesting people from across the globe. And that was only because I chose agriculture as my career of choice. Right. So, yeah. So
okay. Really all right. We're going to come back to the support, because I know that's also a big part of your own growth in the industry. And we're going to talk about who's doing enough, who's not doing enough, and how much more should be done in not only attracting young people, but as you say, in also profiling the ones that are there. Let me move on to another very young person as well, but he's an agricultural economist. So he's got a little bit of the aircon room. He still has a fancy laptop and stuff. Mr. Strobo, your thoughts?
Yeah, thanks, Andile. Look, I'm an agricultural economist, like you say. I work for the Agriculture Business Chamber, and I also write a column for Business Day and Farmers Weekly. And I guess that's how I landed up here, because for some time in the past few years, I have laid out some views of saying, look, the young people are there in the sector, but there isn't a clear path of how to actually involve them in our participation. But obviously, from then, the period where I'd put out the papers up until now, you know, the thinking and the environment have somewhat transformed a little bit. And for me, as I'm thinking about the question coming up to here, was like, look, you are giving us a much more broader question, and maybe we need to narrow it in two ways. Are we looking at the agricultural labor market, the youth coming on to work on the farms, or are we looking at the youth owning the farms? Because you have these dynamics where you have South Africa, for example, average age of a farmer, 62. You look at Australia, 53 years old. You look in the US, 55 years old. Obviously, on an age basis, that looks that way. But if we track back to, say, 1960 up until now, has the average age of farmers in South Africa been changing, or is somewhat sideways in there? Then if it's sideways, we don't maybe necessarily need to worry much about that particular trend. And the thinking of coming back to that point was the fact that if you look at farms in South Africa, not all of them now, but the majority is still pretty much more on the family farms. Like she was saying, she went on to join her father. You look to Anthony, it's a similar particular structure like that. Then if it's a family farms, it will be particularly difficult to have the youth coming on as farmers. But obviously the steps needs to be made. And the last point, on the labor market side, I think it might be looked at in some sort of two ways, because what I'm listening to, for example, in a government policy, they will say, let's create jobs in agriculture because it's low-skilled and stuff like that. And I think that that view is somewhat misplaced in a sense that agriculture now is urban, is getting on and using more of the machineries and all of the other stuff you see outside. So if you're looking at agriculture in that sort of way, you need education, these young guys that are going on to school, and then having that bit of it. So I think we really need to look at it, are we looking at the labor market perspective, or are we looking at the farmer's side? And then maybe as the conversation continues, we will leave this panel knowing where we're focusing.
On that note of potentially those two perspectives, very often and for a long time now, government and I would even say, DFIs and global banks would always talk about agriculture as central to the growth and development of South Africa, and like I would say, the rest of the continent. They keep talking about what the agriculture can do. They keep using a lot of examples. Do you think that's all talk and no real action, or do you think we fundamentally believe that and we behave that way?
I think it's a bit of both. And I think it would be best to look at agriculture as a source for growth if you're taking on what Nono was saying, because the farming side is a particular piece of it. I think let's maybe change the language and look at the food and the fiber industry, because there's a whole host of stuff that you can do with new tech, supplying and supporting the farmers. And then all of those inventions that the entrepreneurs can bring on the sector, that is part of agriculture. And leaving the farm and me being a trader, buying stuff either from Dirk's farm and selling it, that is part of the food chain. So maybe they're looking at it when they say there's potential, looking at the entire chain. But obviously right now, there isn't a much more, in my view, strongly directed focus on the primary farming. Maybe through yes, which is what they're starting out with the youth. Maybe we will see ideas from there. I don't know. We'll see.
Talking about ideas, let me move on to Mpumelelo Mkhabela, an expert on political and policy matters. Mpumelelo, we are firmly in Ramaphoria. We've had it for a few months now. We're still in the new dawn. I don't know if the sun has come out yet, but we're certainly feeling a lot more of a positive effect in South Africa. Your thoughts around the theme, particularly insofar as it relates to government policy and, of course, the bugbear of our lives, implementation and execution of that policy.
Well, thanks, Andile. Well, you have already introduced me, so I don't have to introduce myself. Thank you. Well, I think that if you look at the statistics from Stats SA for over the last few years, it's been telling us the same thing, that we have got, we are blessed. We've got a youthful population, which means that people like Wandile here, the economist, will tell you that it's good because we've got a good market. South Africa's market is growing. That's good for investors and all of that. But on the other hand, that potential youthful market that could be a boon is now increasingly becoming like a curse, in a sense that the other statistics about the youth is also about unemployment. So we've got a census population that tells us that we are well and good, we are youthful. We are not like Japan. Japan has got problems of people becoming too old. No one is there to work on the factories. Now we are lucky that we've got people that are ready to work. But the other statistics about unemployment tells us that a lot of our people are sitting at home. They've got nothing to do. Increasingly, we are seeing people who have graduated, actually, have got degrees, but are sitting at home doing nothing. Some of them looking for jobs. I have an example at home. I've got my nephews who are busy looking for jobs. Some of them went to model schools and all of that. Some of them, of course, don't want to finish university. But I say to them, guys, you know, my grandmother left us with a plot of land. Why don't you just farm there? They said, no, we can't do that. No, we can't do that. You know, it's like, it's frowned upon. So we have a bigger challenge in this country, which is that our youth development policy, in fact, we've got policies that are sitting in different places, that are not coordinated, that don't speak to the statistical challenge that I've just reflected. Youth policy has been changed over time. In fact, not just changed as in terms of the substance, even the people that are actually coordinating it, the people that are supposed to be, putting these kinds of policies have been changing. So one time it's coordinated in the presidency. One time the Youth Development Agency is actually the anchor of policy. One time they use money that's meant for youth development to kiss each other and have parties and drink lots of beer and stuff like that.
Right.
So you have all of these problems that the youth are facing, but I think the government is not focusing enough on the youth. The president now has launched, together with business, what is called the Youth Employment Service, the YES campaign.
Yes.
So big corporates are pledging to get youth to get into internships and all of that. But it's more still people that are more interested in employment rather than people that are interested in entrepreneurship. And those that are interested in entrepreneurship, I don't see agriculture there. The only good thing that I've seen recently around agriculture is the IDC. The Industrial Development Corporation has launched a brilliant project, 4.5 billion in the next 5 years to fund youth entrepreneurship. All we need, I think, agricultural stakeholders, is to push that a huge chunk of that gets used to fund people that are interested in farming. So we need a bit of activism around getting that budget to get to young people that want to farm.
We're going to get to the coordination question, because even your example of the IDC is quite interesting, because you go to the IDC, they say, look, we will fund agribusiness and manufacturing concerns, but you know, if you need all the other elements that a typical farmer wants to kick off, you got to go to other institutions. Of course, we'll also talk a little bit about the land bank that's quite active here today, here at Nampo as well. But before I let you go, I have to ask the question. It's okay and perhaps a little bit easier to criticize government. And government will always get the short end of the stick, unfortunately, because we pay our taxes and therefore we expect more.
Yeah.
But here at Nampo, we've got the privilege of having the chief executives of the largest commercial farming businesses or in the agricultural sector. We've got 70-odd exhibitions of what this real industry looks like. What about the industry itself? Is it doing enough on the youth question? To what extent are these corporates having programs like the YESs, whether it's for employment or even for entrepreneurship? Have you seen anything from a policy perspective from the private sector that said to you, hey, at least the industry is trying?
I think there are pockets of excellence in the industry. There's a lot of farmers that are incubating young people, but there's no scale. It's just small projects there and there. I think what we need between the private sector and the government is actually to focus on education. Take a few technical colleges, convert them to agricultural colleges, and let the private sector companies, let the big, your Monsantos, your Sandvers, and many others, let them run those institutions, at least 50% with the government. They come there, they inject the expertise, they provide what one can call tenured lectureship, stuff like, dedicate their staff. Right. You don't have to be a professor to teach there. All you need is experience to go and teach in the college. And then the government provides facility, they provide other resources. Because what has happened now with higher education, unfortunately, and that's why we blame government, because all of these unemployed graduates You know, they've got degrees, some of them have got masters. You see tweets from time to time, I've got a master's degree in biochemistry.
Yeah.
I'm unemployed. And you get shocked, you know. So what has happened is that there's a lot of theory that's being taught at universities. The universities have become irrelevant. Reason being that when the government changed technicals and made them University of Technologies, they removed a huge chunk of the people who used to sit in council, who used to take decisions at the universities. Those people were from private sector companies. I remember engineering, for example, in some of the technicals in Cape Town, were run by key engineering companies. Now that has been kind of like muted. The councils and senates of universities are now increasingly populated by political deployees. And the very same political deployees...
What do we call cadres?
Cadre deployment. Those very same people are now the ones who are saying, or promising jobs. The question is, who's actually going to give the jobs? Because they've kicked out the private sector from influencing the right qualification that the private sector needs for the people to be employed.
Right. All right, and that's only halfway, people. All right, let's move on to Comrade Anthony on that note of cadre deployment. Cadre Anthony, you've been deployed as the Agri-SA Young Farmer of the Year 2015. Congratulations. A round of applause. I think that's what noted. But Anthony, please take the opportunity to better introduce yourself, because I certainly have not done a good job, especially around your own business. You're a young farmer down in KZN. I've read a few things, how well you guys have done there, notwithstanding the challenges that you've gone through. And your own thoughts on this issue of young people in the sector.
Thank you very much. I farm sugarcane, bananas and macadamias down in Upper Tongaat, which is inland from Belito, for all of you that go down to the coast on holiday. They have an idea where it is. And we're planting some avos in a few years' time. From my side, my business has grown hugely in the last 2 years. I've got a whole management team that I've brought in because of the growth we've experienced, whereas before I was running around doing everything myself. And I think going on to Nono's point there, the opportunities in agriculture has just been huge. I sit on the Gledau Sugar Board, which is a company that we supply our sugarcane to. I sit on the SAMAC board as well, which is obviously for our macadamias. And the people we've managed to interact with has been incredible. From my side, with putting this management team together, first obviously we took staff that were unemployed but had excelled and built them up to a level. But without education, they're capped. They're excellent at managing people, but they can't advance any further. And then I brought in the management team. We've now brought in another layer of management below that. And I've been astounded. We've employed 3 BSc Agric guys, just newly qualified out of university, and they're hungry. They can't get experience, and they're really hungry to learn. And the perspective from them has been absolutely eye-opening for me. I've been, you hear so often that the youth are lazy, they don't want to work, and things like that. And it's just been earth-shattering at how these guys have come in. And they just want to learn, and they've got this insatiable appetite to get hold of what's going on, and they happen to be black guys, and I guess that's part of the conversation today. But we don't need to. I don't like to always classify, but it's just been incredible to see this generation that's come through, and it's got me really excited. Then with my operation, we've got owned land and leased land. The leased land is from individuals, white and black. White farmers that are getting old and wanting to retire, and so instead of selling the farm, they've got no family to pass it on to, they're leasing it on. Black farmers who are doctors in Joburg and things like that want their farm run for them. And then communities, we've got land claim communities, 2 of them that we operate closely with. And that's always been a challenge from a trust point of view. And over time, we built that with a third-party facilitator who happens to be the major shareholder in the sugar mill. Dr. Patrick Sekela has helped to facilitate that, and that's really worked well for us. So it's a whole different model from when I started. I came back to the farm straight after doing my Bachelor of Business Science at Rhodes University, finished in 2004, and was looking at going into the banking industry and that, but my father had passed away in 2000, so I came back to the farm, and it's been the best thing I've done. I really enjoyed it. The experiences I've had, and the future's really bright. I think there's a lot we can do. on your point there, I think that the one thing as agriculture that we do poorly is market ourselves. We're absolutely shocking at marketing ourselves. For me at high school, going for an agricultural qualification, having grown up on a farm all my life and loved farming, doing an agricultural degree wasn't even advertised that much. And unless you're in that sort of, you've got family members that have done a degree or something like that, it doesn't seem to be, or wasn't that appealing then. And the business world was the sexy area to go into and where everyone wanted to go. And so I think that that needs to be marketed more, because in agriculture we cover all aspects. HR, finance, IT, especially now the way the technology is moving. You know, technologies might be taking away the manual labor jobs, but it's creating other jobs at a much higher level, which is giving meaningful employment, and people need to manage the technology, they need to develop the technology, so it's actually creating jobs, not taking jobs away, but it's putting jobs in at a meaningful level where people are earning really well. So I'm really excited about the future of agriculture, and I think that we just need to package it better for the youth of today and to get them on board.
How do we get more of you though? How do we get more Anthony's and more Nonos into farming, whether or not whether as a professional or an operator of a farm?
That's a difficult question. When I started on the farm 14 years ago, I was the youngest farmer in our area. I'm still the youngest farmer in our area. so I don't have an example close by, but in other areas the guys are doing well. But I think that if agriculture is a good space and there's money to be made, then it filters through and people see that when times are tough and people are battling for survival, then everyone sort of forgets about all those peripheral things and they go into survival mode, which makes it a lot more difficult. So if we have a thriving industry, it automatically attracts people into it. Whereas if people are just, you're fighting with political issues and then fighting with drought and, you're in survival mode for year after year, then it makes it very difficult to bring people in. So we need to create that environment where agriculture is thriving and the people will come. If the environment's right, we'll get the people in there.
Are you worried about land expropriation without compensation?
No, I'm actually not.
Tell me why.
Because the caveats in it say that, or at the moment, with Ramaphosa's policy is that if it doesn't affect food security and it doesn't affect the economy. So if you're a producing farmer who's obviously got bonds and production loans and that, then from that point of view, that you're okay. But I see there's a huge opportunity there, because for me, if you on rural land or tribal land and you've built a house and you've got a plot with 2 hectares, 5 hectares of cropping land there, and you can't borrow against that because you don't own it. You've got a house that you built over 20 years or your family's built and passed on without title, you can't borrow against that, so then you can't grow. And I don't know, a couple of years ago I read a figure that if title was given on that land, we could increase our growth by 2% overnight. Which, if that is still true, that would be, well, the economists would be able to talk to that, but that would be a phenomenal thing. 5% is our magic number for growth that we're trying to get to sort out our unemployment problem. And if we could unlock that by getting people, one guy will then buy out his neighbor or be able to buy machinery and bond it against his property, and that there's a huge opportunity there as well. And so I think that we must look for the opportunities in the discussion rather than the negatives. And it depends on how we as a nation come together and discuss it.
Good man, good man. Thanks for that, Anthony. Very interesting perspective. Let me move on to Hamlet. He's a chief economist at Agri SA. Hamlet, your thoughts? We've heard from one economist. What are your thoughts on this youth issue?
Well, thank you, Andile. My name is Hamlet Clementlini. I'm a chief economist of Agri SA. I'm an agricultural economist. I'm also a columnist for the Farmers Weekly. Yesterday, just landed from Zimbabwe. I attended a SACAO conference there. It was actually amazing to see that Africans are very youthful in agriculture. And when we compare them with South Africans, it's a different story. As a point of departure, I think, let me just bring these statistics. It is said that 200 million in Africa are between the ages, 200 million people in Africa between the ages of 15 to 25. By 2045, that number will be doubled. What does that mean? It means Africa will continue to be a youthful continent. Means that young people will have to come to the table in terms of being active in the economy. And from an agricultural perspective, they are needed even more. Because Africa's mouth is getting bigger and bigger. There's more mouth to feed in Africa. But if you look at its agricultural productivity, it's not going very well. We need to get more young people into the sector because the people that are currently there are aging. Another point that I want to let you in is the point that Mpumelelo touched on about the education in South Africa. I don't know, Andile, if you remember back in the days, there was an agricultural curriculum that was given in school level. And you don't see that happening anymore. You go to every school in the rural areas, there was a community garden for students or learners to go and do something on. You know, you would have a piece of land there as a learner, you plant your stuff there, and also it contributes towards your marks at the end of the day.
You have to take your produce to your teacher.
Exactly. None of that is happening these days. So from the school level, agriculture is not very important in this country. It's not something that is positioned as something that is very important. Coming back to the point that Mpumelelo made about the agricultural colleges, you don't see any these days. The question is why? Where I do not agree with him is when he says that universities are irrelevant. That cannot be. But where I agree with him is that we need more students or young people taking on agricultural degrees. And we need to bring back those agricultural colleges because they were doing something that the universities in Mpumelelo were not doing in terms of giving the practical experience. So what is happening in South Africa with regards to the youth in agriculture? My view is that Andile wrote an article last year titled, "It's a fallacy that young people do not want to be involved in agriculture."
Yes.
I couldn't agree with him more on that. I wrote another article this year about the image of agriculture in South Africa. And I think that's where the problem is. It's with the image of agriculture. If you speak to somebody, like for instance in Camp Dobokwe or wherever in the Eastern Cape, and you ask them, would they want to go to agriculture? Would they want to become a farmer? They would say, no, I don't want to be a farmer, because farming is associated with a certain perception, debt. You gotta go, put on gumboots, drive a tractor, and all of those things. That's the image of it. And furthermore, when you go bigger into agriculture, you see that young people, they think that a black person cannot be a commercial farmer because there's a white face in there. Being a commercial farmer in agriculture is associated to being white. So that image is very big amongst young people in South Africa. And another thing, I'm going to ask all of you here, I'm sure you've heard what these speakers that have spoken already, especially Nono and Anthony. They are farmers, but there's a common thing in both of them. Nono came into farming because of somebody in the family. The same as Anthony. Nono has a degree in finance. Anthony has a degree in agricultural economics.
Finance.
Business science.
In business science, I'm sorry.
No,
I'm the one who has a degree in agricultural economics. So, I want you to notice that. All right. Now think of somebody sitting in the rural areas who wants to be a farmer and doesn't have this. How challenging it might be. It's very difficult.
Right.
Thank you, Andile.
All right. Lots to talk about. Thanks for that, Hamlet. Well, Dr. Dirk, as I like to call you, a lot of things by your colleagues have been mentioned: education, age, policy, the image of agriculture, how difficult it is to get in. Your reflections?
I must say, Andile, they're so experts in this topic that I changed my speech constantly over here. I think what's very nice is I was involved in tertiary education for about 10 years, and I could see youth grow through that process of where they came from and how they got through the process. And I think one thing that my friend over here didn't mention here is the same thing all of us have here, and that's passion.
Yeah.
And I think that's a core thing in agriculture, yes, because agriculture is all about passion. If you take agriculture, it's all about belief. You put something in the soil and you believe it's going to happen at the end of the day. So you need that passion to get you through that space. But there's a few things that I want to put on a table for you as well. As if you go and Google farmer, you do Google image, you get a picture of someone sitting on a tractor, or someone sitting on a tractor having a plow behind him, and that's not the image of a farmer anymore. If you go outside and you look at all the equipment that's here, it's very technical. It is high technical, data-driven efficiency that needs to go through the system.
Right.
And that's what young people like these days. If you see them, they're on their cell phones. If you see them, they're part of technology. If they see them, they're talking apps. Now, I just want to go a bit back to put a picture of what agriculture these days are all about. If you take drones, drones was developed in a military space. Who was the first guys that picked it up in the private commercial sector? Agriculture.
Yes.
They were the first people to take it up. That's what agriculture is these days about. I had a privilege to have one of the tractors, offload one of the tractors late at night one night here. And I was sitting in a tractor and I looked at a tractor and it was all screens everywhere. It's screens and it looks like a LCD iPad screen in front of you. I looked for the steering wheel. and that's what agriculture is these days about. Right. So I challenge people, young people, go and sit in the biggest BMW you can get and look around you technology-wise. And go and find a tractor and sit in that tractor and look at the same thing. And it's two different worlds.
Right.
And that's what young people are driven by today. And that's where the image of agriculture is going to. And that's the importance for us. I think it's
on the basis that you're from Grain SA, I have to pose the same question to you that I posed to Mpumelelo around the role of business. Right? So the commercial farming concerns, the big businesses, the big listed companies, the real leaders in the industry, to what extent do you think they have put together programs that seek to change that image, that very image that you're talking about, so as to attract the young people to the industry that may be seen to be a different image by many, particularly black emerging or at least aspirant farmers?
I think that there's a lot of companies that started to get involved with it already, but we need that mass action. And it really needs to be in that space to showcase what agriculture is all about with a mass action. Now, to give you an example, we've got in Grain SA, we've got a program we call the Grain Academy. And it's where we said agriculture need leadership. We've got all the guys that form part of agriculture leadership, but we lost a generation of new guys coming in.
Right.
And we put them through a program to ask difficult questions, to go into dialogue, to explore themselves in an agriculture environment. And if you see those students coming through that system, you can see at the end of the day, you created that passion that I talked about. And that I want to go back to is, I think companies need to do internships. They need to get people involved to show them what is practically part of it. I was privileged to at the university, I had an internship program there, and to see where students come back to you after that. Remember, it's already an agriculture student. He's already in agriculture. That came back and said, I didn't realize that what agriculture is all about. And that's the kind of stuff we need. And I must say, if I look at those students, all of them are still in agriculture. None of them left the agricultural industry for something else.
Okay.
And that's because it's not just the tractor driving. Agriculture is a vast number of different industries. You can go into chemistry, it's engineering, it's soil, it's everything you can think of at some point of stage forms part of agriculture. Okay. Agriculture is a center point of a lot of different industries. And that creates a lot of opportunities. And that I want to link back to, we're talking about policies and everyone thinks if we talk agriculture, we talk primary production to create jobs. That's not where our job creation is. Our job creation lies in the value chain. The agro-processing, the taking these primary products and doing something more with it. That's where our the real flowing fruit, low-hanging fruit lies. Where we create that factory that's developing people, putting them in a different skill level, putting them in a place where they can explore, putting them in a place where they can be innovative. And I think that's, everyone think of agriculture, just that small part.
Right.
Agriculture is far beyond that.
Let's go back, let's just try and center it a little bit. Let's go back to that production level. And let's focus our attention for a second before I ask the audience to weigh in. Let's focus our attention on the emerging farmer, right? So let's talk about this young person who's gone ahead and studied that particular degree, who's gone to a proper institution, Mr. Mkhabela, that has given him the right kind of training, and he's now ready and he wants to go ahead. I want to be an Anthony, I want to be a Nono. Couple of tenets that will be required in that, because this person is starting a business effectively. Yeah. I want to start with land, and anybody can weigh in. How do we get land into the hands of these young people? One, they're young, so they typically do not have any kind of commercial or business history or any record to offer you if you're going to lend them money to buy it. Two, a vast majority, 80% of our country are black people, are black. And they definitely have got no credit record or any asset to put forward. And they don't have Nono's father who worked very, very hard and somehow found a way to get some land in his hands. Is one, land that important, especially on the back of the fact that the industry is much bigger than just primary farming? And two, if it is critical, how do we get it into the hands of these young people with these structural limitations that, at least to me as an outsider, look like real limitations? Any volunteers?
I can share something. So yes, it's very difficult. So you got it right. But I think the most important thing for us to be able to do as the industry is to find ways to give these guys experience first. Yeah. I mean, giving someone land, that's an asset. If you don't know what you're doing, then what are we doing? We're all just setting them up for failure. So yes, if they've studied, they've got a passion, that's great. But the experience is so crucial. I mean, I said I've been in the industry for 7 years. I'm telling you, that's all I've been doing is learning. Now I only started my own business. I don't work for my father anymore. I opened up my business, which it took me 3 years to get off the ground, because I still needed to understand how to get markets, how to get finance, how will that work, training. So if I don't have all of that, land means nothing. Because that's all I had. You know, I had land that I didn't need to worry about, but I still didn't have a business. So for me, I think that's really, the conversation is around how do we give them access to experience.
All right. What?
I want to weigh in a little bit on this, because I think there is something that can be done with both of what you guys have said. If you look at what Dirk is doing at Grain SA, he has a farmer development site, which he didn't mention. And on the academic side, he has a program there with Grain SA, which they go to rural schools and they talk to high schools and inform them, particularly in provinces like mine in the Eastern Cape, where we never see big farms like this. All we think when we think farming, we think Utatu Dlamini and his small farm. So the imagery issue is there. But when you now start to say, how do you get the young people land and get them to be farmers, you can do that by you take a pool of young people, 30 of them or whatever number. You say on a grain SA or on a fruit SA, on a sugar guy, how about instead of, in addition to your farmer development program, you also target to have a youth development program where you take the youth and you train them, but similar way where you train your development farmers. When they reach a certain stage of let's say after 3 years, they've done all of that which you require. Then in the state land, which the NC writes in their page 31 of their documents, that they will look at government unused land. You say a certain portion of that land, 30% or whatever number that you come with. We will say, if we are in Natal, we'll look at sugar guys to say, okay, sugar, give us 10 guys that you think will be successful farmers. Then we think of taking the private sector as well as government, allocating a certain piece of land there, working around the financing. The financing issue can be worked out. I mean, you look at Zimbabwe before the independence. They had a Zimbabwean Agricultural Corporation Finance, which was targeting and financing small and medium farms. And the repayment rate was great. So I think there are practical things that can be done by both business as well as government on the training and really incubating people and leading them towards that.
Skills land.
I think a great thing that has been discussed there is an apprenticeship, because you may think that you want to be a farmer, but after you've worked in that area for a while, you might decide, actually, the risks are too high. I don't want to own the land, but I enjoy a certain aspect of farming. So you want to become an agronomist or an advisor. And I mean, agronomic advisors are all in their late 50s, heading towards their 60s generally now. There's very few coming through, so there's a whole need for that. So you can then get the benefit of helping a whole lot of other people. You know, there's other avenues as well. Right. Whereas to say to someone, you want to be a farmer, there's your farm, but they don't know how to what they're doing quite then, without that experience, they might actually change their mind. So I think that that's a great idea, having that apprenticeship for a couple of years, and then they can hone their skills into which area they really like.
Good. Dr. Dirk?
Yeah, I think there's a few important things for me. And the one thing is, if you see young people that lives on a farm and grew up on a farm, they had a learning curve since they started to walk. They learn every day. I had the privilege to ride with one of the young guys. I think it was like something like 13 years old, and it was amazing how he talked about all this equipment and what every equipment can do, and I was astonished by his knowledge, and that's some part of the sector where they go through a family farm, where they get that knowledge base, that educational base. Then we get a part that don't have it. They don't have any of that practical, I mean, it's 18 years of experience build up. They don't have that. And that's where the colleges come in. We don't have that space to show the practical side, experience side of what agriculture is. You can go into university, you can learn agriculture on a theory side, but you need that expertise as well. And we need something to develop that skills. And the internships and the collaboration between the public sector and the government sector is very important.
So where are they though, Doc? Where are the internships? Where are these apprenticeships? If you guys so believe that's what we need, create them then. It's your industry.
Well, let me come in there. You see, the question you raised about somebody who is interested in entering the sector, but where do they start? It links exactly with what my colleague there Hamlet raised about, you know, these two, they had family connections. They had family connections. That's how they entered the industry. So in the absence of role modeling that Derek talks, what do we do? Now, it's interesting. Look from the government perspective. You have what they call SA Invest. It's a new idea. You and I did some live broadcasts, I think, when they were launched.
Yes, the one-stop shop.
The one-stop shop.
Yeah.
It's dedicated largely to international investors wanting to come to South Africa. Then if you look at the other thing that government has done, they've put what they call community centers all around the country. It's one-stop shops to access government services. Some of them have already collapsed, but tenders were issued and all of that. But they are there in many communities. Where is the one-stop shop for this kind of thing that you're talking about? Where I have an idea, I want to convert it. Where is that one-stop shop? There's a lot of these small development finance institutions from government, you know, sitting in different areas that are not accessible. And most of them don't have money. Actually, there's a good example in KwaZulu-Natal, in the municipality of eThekwini. The only budget that they had to develop youth was to pay their own salaries in the office. You know, it was headed by one of my colleagues, a political analyst, Petros Madlala. What was his name? Madlala, yes. You know, he battled to say, what do I do with this institution that was set up with the good intention of helping young people to develop, to get businesses and all of that. But the only budget I have is to pay my salary and the secretary and other and telephone bills and all of that. That's it. So they're not capacitated, first of all, in terms of resources. They're not capacitated in terms of intellectual capacity to do the kind of work that you're talking about. So we have a big gap now between people dreaming and having ideas and reality. Someone must fix that gap.
Yeah. So I've got an example.
I'll come to you now. Ladies first, ladies first. Sorry.
I've got a practical example. So the colleges actually require the students to go out to farms as part of their curriculum. And so a lot of the farm workers that are working with me now came from there. I mean, my manager of cattle, she came when I arrived. She was there to do her internship. She left, she came back. And she's now worked through, you know, our businesses and learned. So we as farmers also have a responsibility to actually do that, because the colleges actually reach out to us to actually say, please, can you provide them access? And then with that, it's also about building relationships. I mean, the girl that I work with, Keke, it was up to her. She also said, listen, I'm coming back, you know, when I'm done. Can I come? Even if I don't get paid, but I need to come. And she came, and over the time, okay, well, of course we did pay her, but you know, she just showed that initiative that she needs to come back, because she knew she's going to go home where there is no farm.
Right. That's the passion you were talking about.
You know what? I want to go back to what Dirk said about passion, which you just mentioned now. This whole thing lies there in passion, with having passion about agriculture, being passionate about it, and to support Nono's point. Andile, me, Dirk, they would remember, is it the 4th year of agriculture economics? You have to go to the farm. You have to get the hands-on experience on the farm.
So Andile worked in a farm?
Yes, he
I
did.
worked in a dairy farm.
You
have never say. I mean, look at his shoes.
No, you would never say that. But it's something that you have to do. It's even more extensive when you go to FETs that were there before.
I see.
Andile and I, on a daily basis, we get emails from young people asking us, how do I get into agriculture? You know, and they say, I want land. I've been speaking to people in the Department of Rural Development. Nobody's coming to me. How do we get land? Of course, we do not have those answers, Andile and I, as to how they can get land. So then we sometimes...
But you can't even say where they should go. You can't even...
You see, that's the
industry that we are discussing here can't even say, well, maybe you don't need land, as Nono said.
Exactly.
You know,
but before you ask that question,
but
before you respond to that question, you respond with another email. What experience do you have in farming? Nothing. Nothing. You know. Now, the point is that I'm trying to make here is that answering your question, the land comes last for me.
Okay.
The land question comes last for me.
Right.
It's the experience first.
And the training.
And the training.
Understood.
Answering your question again of internships.
Yes.
There are farmers from universities that they want to farm or want to be farm managers. One of our young farmer that was given an award in 2016 went through that process.
Okay.
He is a big dairy farmer now in the Eastern Cape.
How is it run, Hamlet? Is it run by different companies on their own, or is there an industry party that coordinates it?
So this guy is from Limpopo. You know, he started in Limpopo. When he finished with his training, he wanted to link with a farmer. You know, it's an initiative that he took himself.
Yes.
You know, everybody that comes off university, they want to go and do internship in the Department of Agriculture. But this guy said, I want to go to the farmer because I want to farm.
Yes.
First of all, he knew what he wanted to do.
Right.
Right? So he went to this farmer in the Eastern Cape, and this guy in the Eastern Cape offered him, you know, an internship program, which ran for 2 years. Because he was so good, the farmer offered him a job to be the farm manager. And he stayed there for another year. And the farmer, because he wanted to contribute towards transformation, he decided with this guy and a couple of other guys that were on the farm, he would give them a piece of land, you know, to start farming with him. But he did not separate the farms, you know. Today, this particular guy is the one that is fully operating the whole farm, and he owns about 30% of that farm. And his colleagues that he started it, 2 of them, own about 20%. 50% is still owned by the original farmer. But that farmer is no longer involved in the daily operation of that farm. It's this person that came as an intern that is doing that. So mentoring is very important here.
All right.
There's an organization in KZN called Future Farmers, and this year they're planning on placing 100 farmers, and they've had incredible success. And part of the internship is they place with farmers around the country, and then a year or 2 of that they go overseas, Australia, America, and hearing those guys speak, it's absolutely incredible what they've learned, and that gets them up to speed in such a short time on learning everything. And I think it's to take that and scale it up, those sort of projects, you know, as we said before, there's pockets of excellence, and it's to get it going on a much larger scale. And I think success breeds success, so we need to market ourselves.
Doctor, before I go to the audience?
I think that there's one thing that I want to put us to remind us of that as well. In primary agriculture, meaning you're a producer on a farm, there's limited space to get involved. There's space to get involved, but it's more limited. Where the opportunities lie is in that value chain part. And there is a lot of internships and a lot of programs happening. I mean, St. West got a huge program where they get these people involved. So there's a vision to say, the moment that you're not a primary producer, everyone says, but there's no space for me in agriculture, which is not true.
Right.
You can be part of agriculture in the value chain.
Yes. Okay.
And there's a lot of programs running already. But everyone's got this mindset of you need to be a primary producer. You don't need to be a primary producer to get involved in agriculture.
All right.
All of us are in agriculture involved here. And we only have one farmer, dedicated farmer. Two, sorry, a dairy one as well.
No. A round of applause for our panel. Whoa. So I had no chance of getting through all the questions I had, as you can tell. I did warn you, we're going to some really smart people on this panel. It's now your turn. It's your time. There is no question that cannot be asked. I used to have a high school teacher who would say that the stupid question is the one you never ask. So ask along. Can I get some hands? I'll take 3 at a time. If you are sending it to a specific person, please do so. If you're just going to leave it to the panel to pick and choose players, please do so. Please stand and tell us your name, where you're from, and the comment or question you have. Yes, sir.
Good morning. Thank you very much. My name is Barry Huissamer. I'm from the Peritum Agri Institute in Bloemfontein. Hello, Andile. We offer agriculture training. We do it as an applied science, so we do focus at least 50% of the training is practical. The concern that I have is the fact that funding is limited for students who come to private FET colleges for their studies. They cannot rely on government funding with NSFAS as your students at universities do. And universities cannot accommodate all students who wish to study in agriculture. Many are turned away. Then they come to private colleges and they cannot be funded. I was very amazed by the amount that was mentioned, that is being made available for agriculture development. How can students at private colleges access funds for their training? Thank
Great
you.
question, Barry. Thanks for that. Good point. So NSFAS can't fund the students who go to private colleges, but the universities or the technical colleges or the universities of technology nowadays can't take enough students. Okay, there's a need. How do we fund that? Great question. There was another hand. Yes, sir.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Vukani, and I've got a question for the economists and probably afterwards for the farmers. So I think the classification is that agriculture is 5% of GDP. I think the economists will correct me if I'm wrong. And if that's the case, should we be, applying focus in this industry, or should we be pushing our young people to other areas that potentially could have a bigger impact on the growth of the economy? Secondly, source for the economists, do you guys think that that classification of 5% is correct, given the influence that Dr. Dirk spoke about earlier in terms of the value chain up and down the agricultural sector? That's my first question. Second question is to the farmers. Insofar as the ecosystem is concerned for support to farmers, what do you guys think could be done better by, finance institutions and other role players and key stakeholders in the agri sector to ensure that, marketing, more youth are aware of the agri sector and, just to sexy it up, like you spoke about? Do you guys think that there's, what can be done differently to support you insofar as the ecosystem is concerned? Thank you.
Thanks, Bugani. On the first question, I do think that no matter how much of GDP agriculture is, everyone in the country needs some food. One more question before I go back to the panel. I saw another hand. Yes, ma'am, please. There we go.
Good day, everyone. My name is Alticia, and I'm from the Potchefstroom College of Agriculture. I just wanted to know, we do have I think Andile knows us, we do have a program of training students, but we have a challenge with placing our students because the final year requires that they be placed on a farm where they will get practical experience for at least 11 months. So because it's part of what adds to their CV, just so they can say that they have a CV. But we have serious problems with actually getting commercial farms and businesses to place them at.
Well, before you move the microphone, what is the reason they give you for not being able to take your students?
Oh, some don't want girls.
Some don't want?
Some do not want girls. It's very difficult to get, to place girls on farms.
Okay.
And then for the past 2 years, the farmers have been saying that they've been having a problem with the drought. And I think some are just maybe scared that, they will bring politics and stuff to the farms. I'm just not sure. Because I also come from a farming background. I used to work on a farm, and the farmer gave me an opportunity when nobody was, when it was not used to having girls who studied agriculture and wanting to work on a farm. But we get they are few and far apart, those type of farmers that we get. Thank you.
Great question. Thanks, Alticia. Well, there you go. That's a lot to chew on, hey?
Can I just maybe start with that question?
You want to start with Alticia?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe what you can try is not to deal with the individual farmer. Go via organized agriculture. Like the Grain SA, Agri-SA, to a certain extent, AgBiz.
Can I ask a dumb question? I've been waiting for somebody to tell me about how agriculture is organized.
Sure.
Especially around this issue of training, this issue of apprenticeships, this issue of internships. So school me, the outsider. I go through Barry's training or Letitia's training, and now I want to go into an internship. Exactly where do I go? Is there one door, to Mpumelela's point, that I knock on, and it can then give me access to potentially a population of commercial farmers?
No, I mean, look, the sector is set up in this way, but I'm going to be simplistic here. But you have the agribusinesses, which is under us, the Agriculture Business Chamber, Mr. Francois Sanves and everyone. So there is everyone that participates in the sector, but not necessarily farming. Either you're on the input, you're on the finance and stuff.
Okay.
Then you have the farmers, all organized under different institutions. There are some that are under Agri-SA.
Okay.
In there, you might find the groupings of farmers like Grain SA, Potato SA, Fruit SA. I'm not necessarily saying those are there, but it's some sort of fashion. Then you have the African Farmers Association, which also has a number of groupings of farmers that are organized there. So that's where the structure is setting about. So you're coming on like her, trying to get internship, you can either go through AFASA or go through Agri-SA, or if they are in a value chain related stuff, come to institutions like AGBIS, then we will give advice. But one key thing I want to mention before I go, I think it will be an issue, either you are from Peritam or you are from Potchefstroom, to pitch up in my farm for the first time and saying, look, I want you to take these students and farm with them. I think that if you're farming, say Peritam, you're farming in Free State, it will do you well to make sure that at least you know the agricultural companies and everybody around you. You do talk to these guys, they are aware of what you are doing in long term. Then by the time you bring the student, they already build that trust. I mean, these are family businesses. I'm not just gonna, so I think that relationship needs to be strengthened.
Is this girl thing a real thing? No?
Well,
I'm only asking you because you only go.
It's a first time
well,
I'm
not
hearing
on my
that.
farm. We've
But
got
in the
lots
industry,
of
though,
girls.
do you think, is there a thing that, you know, males are, I don't know, stronger and smarter? Which clearly they're not.
Maybe they're stronger, but not necessarily smarter. But I think...
You don't need power anymore in agriculture.
But I think it's also, I mean, for me, because I'm a woman, there's always women wherever I go. You know, so I've been able to connect with a lot of young farmers, women across the ages. But yes, when you do go to more organized structures, there's less. This is organized. Look, it's just me. So when you get into that, I mean, when you go into the farms, you go into the labor force, there's lots of women who are doing labor. You know, that we had that conversation as well with the women's section, a panel 2 days ago, is that on the farms, on the, you know, production, working hard, the women are there. The labor force is full of women. But as you go up, the higher the value chain or the leadership chain, the less and the fewer they are. Where there's more decision making, more power to access finance, more power to make decisions about markets, then you see less. Yeah, so that's where the issue is.
Statistics, 30% of South African agricultural labor force is women, so at least there is something, then the rest is men. But
the level of that 30%, I think Nono is saying, is just largely not at decision-making level.
Yeah.
Well,
good luck with that one. Let's move on, because I do have to answer a few questions. Pumela, do you want to weigh in on this one?
Yeah, I wanted to weigh in on the fact that, I mean, we can cut what appears to me like a bureaucratic thing, that, you know, when the students graduate, they must now start searching and, you know, all of that. We can cut that out by getting agribusinesses, or even the organized agriculture, have people who represent them in the training institutions. So there's a direct link. You don't have to go search for it. As the students register, Agri-SA already knows that in that college, there are so many people studying these courses. And in this year, they're going to graduate. So in their meetings, it's in the agenda that, guys, remember today's graduation in that college. Our president is going to go there. We already have the list of the people that have passed. They spread them around. They go there and pick and choose. And you make it, it's an integral part of the system.
All right, good ideas coming through. Barry, let's stay with the education question. Barry is saying he runs a private FET college, and he does training. 50% of it is practical. NSFAS can't fund students going to private institutions. But on the other side of the coin, public institutions or other government-owned institutions can't take enough. Is there a solution to that funding problem? And I'm looking at you, Mpumelelo, because you might be able to offer some solutions.
Well, there should be a solution. I mean, I don't understand why the government would not fund students who go to private colleges, especially if that private college offers quality education, that will produce a student who will be an entrepreneur and then open a business and then employ people. And because the government's target is to reduce unemployment, isn't it? So we should try and attack the unemployment problem from all angles. So I would, if I was the government, diversify my subsidies. I subsidize students, fees must fall as happen. I subsidize students who go to public institutions. I also have a budget that subsidizes those that go to private colleges from poor backgrounds. So that at least we've got these diversified outcomes and you have different kinds of talents coming from all over angles, different angles.
Right. Can you take a stock?
I think a very important thing is to build relationships, like Wandile mentioned, with companies. Build that relationships with people that can assist in terms of doing it. It won't come by itself. The educational institutions needs to develop that platform. And one of the universities have a platform like that, where they've got 16 agriculture students that's funded by agricultural companies that go and work on holidays, get experience by doing that, and the day that they walk out of that university, they have a work and a part of the system already, and they're funded by doing that. So there is space. Companies always want that because now they know who they're employing.
Okay.
They're not just sitting with a CV.
Okay.
And that's a benefit for the company as well, and all the other benefits that go with it. The university's got a benefit because it gives them a practical experience, or the training institution got a benefit because they already give him a practical experience. And so there's models that work like that. It's one must realize that you're not going to take all the students and do that, because it's that practical reality part that's part of it as well. But it's an incubator system. And what you're doing by doing that is you're taking the real best and put them in the system. And I guess that's where we need to start, is to get the best out of the students into the system.
And I guess, Barry, part of a potential solution could be exactly that, lobbying the policymakers, because especially if the angle is around critical skills, and especially if there's enough evidence that shows that, the government-owned institutions can only take so many. So there's clearly a spillover of young people passionate and want to study. Maybe over time, through lobbying of the policymakers, you could have a dispensation that allows for the funding of those students on the basis that, one, agriculture's image is up there, it's taken seriously, food security is a big consideration, and we as government have got enough evidence to show that there's not enough capacity to take on more, so therefore perhaps we should be open to funding students to privately owned institutions. So maybe even lobbying may very well be kind of an option. Let's move on to Vugani's questions. Let me go to Hamlet. 5% of GDP is the number that's been thrown around. First of all, is it correct?
No, it's not. It's not.
Do you want us to put the three of you guys in a room and then you decide what the number is?
Well, my colleagues will correct me.
Left?
Yeah. My colleagues will correct me. From the primary agriculture, it's about 2.5% contribution to the GDP. But if you consider the whole value chain, it's around 12% contribution. So, Vugani, your question was, that contribution of 5% is very small. Therefore, should we consider the sector as a high growth sector, or a sector that we should be concentrating and focusing our attention to? Just to answer a question on that, the contribution to the GDP is one thing. There's another contribution, for instance, to the labor force. Agriculture is the biggest employer of rural people, and it provides employment to rural people to the tune of around 800,000 or more plus currently. And of course, that number has been distorted by the impact of drought on the sector, because of drought, farmers had to cut down their labor force, and in circumstances like that, the first target is usually the casual laborers that get to be
Not target. You can't target to find.
What's the right word?
No, I mean the reduction in unemployment gets to be there, but you don't sit and target.
Okay. Right. No one targets the casual labor.
No.
All right. We get it. Farmers, real quickly, the two farmers in the panel, a question to you. In the ecosystem, with the experience that you guys have gone through, let me start with you, Anthony. What can be done to make it better? What can be done to, one, attract the young people, keep them, and then make sure that the average age, Andile was telling me last night when we were WhatsApping each other that the average age in South Africa is something like, 62 years old, apparently, of a farmer. How do we drop that? What do we need to do?
I think firstly we need to start talking agribusiness rather than agriculture farming, because that automatically sounds better, and that's where the growth is in the value chain. So we need to always talk about agribusiness. And personally, we've just started talking about our business as an agribusiness rather than the farm or agriculture. You know, and I think that that's just that perception would be a starting point. And you know, we've said that for placement, there's certain organizations out there, like I mentioned, and then I think that a centralized database of some sort, even if it's per university or something, where, you know, the link isn't there between the employer and the skills that are out there to get the right person that fits that bill. To, yes, we'll give them experience in that, but we need that link to be formed and formalized. So I think that those are really important steps that we need to get. And I think it's a whole PR and marketing drive to actually take people before they make their subject choices in high school. So it's now grade 10, I think, that you're making your subject choices. That's in the year or two before that, to take them out and show them what a working farm or agribusiness actually looks like. And they can then say, well, actually that aspect really, really excites me. So what are the subjects I need to study to do that? And they can gear their career towards that. And then once you're in that agribusiness chain, people might reverse integrate to end up back on the farm, like Nono has. From a finance perspective, it might be agricultural finance that you're in, and you say, well, actually, I'd quite like to farm, but you've got the skills and the contacts, and you've got that all sorted out. So I think those are the avenues we need to explore.
No.
So going back to Vugani's question specifically, it was supporting probably like those that are already in well, I'm going to speak about farming because that's where I am. It's really around coordinating that support, you know, coordinating the financiers as well as those that are providing markets, those that are providing training, to get them in a room to actually, you know, have a focused strategy amongst themselves of how they will actually participate. Because the problem is now, and as I said, I do a lot of work with the FASA, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to organize support for our farmers. So I end up running all over the place. I meet this person, I need that person, I need that person. And then at the end, okay, I need to get them in a room. And that's another like work for me that I just need to do. Guys, we're all trying to do the same thing. How about we sit down? So that platform, that it needs to kind of just exist. There has to be a platform that says, this is what happens on once a month that we all gather at this place, and this is what we're trying to achieve. You know, so better coordination, and as well as identifying and understanding the farms better, the farmers. So understanding where they are. I mean, we're all different, so you can't come with one paintbrush and like, oh, that's how we're going to help. It doesn't work like that. Otherwise, it's going to take us forever because a lot of people are going to be falling along the cracks. So what you need to do is developing a database of who exactly exists right now, at what level they are, so that when we approach those platforms, we're talking to actual facts. To say, in this month, oh, we can actually work towards this because these farmers are already ready. Because we're not all at the same stage. And unfortunately, if we don't address that, then none of our farmers are actually ever going to get to achieve the successes.
All right. Okay. Great stuff. Thanks, guys.
Andy, just a point on the agri-economy, a quick one.
Yes, Mr. Slovo.
The agricultural sector has been growing. It's not just 2% or 2.5%. If you look at the GVA, the gross value from 1994 up until today, it almost doubled. Right now, if you look at the 2017 figures, it's somewhere around about 126 billion. But it's only at that level, or have somewhat declined from 4% to around about 2.5%, because other sectors within the pie are growing at a faster pace than us. But we are important. A clear example of it, look at it 2017 and 16 when you had a drought, other sectors didn't have negatively affected as largely by drought like agriculture in the northern parts of the country. But look where the GDP number actually came down to. IMF have a special note focusing on that. So the sector, the impact of it is quite significant.
Quite wide indeed. No, I definitely agree. I remember that very much. Where are the young people? Yeah, let's hear from some young people. Mr. Microphone Man, find me some youth for this round, and then we'll go back to the oldies a little bit later. You can go ahead, sir.
Hello, I'm Dirk Botman. I'm from Kroonstad. I don't actually have a question. I have a comment I would like the panel to discuss. One of the panel members mentioned earlier that there isn't a lot of youth in South Africa that's interested in agriculture, but I believe there are a lot of us that are passionate about agriculture, but all the projects we are hearing about, they're saying we're only looking for black youth, and that's making a lot of us uncertain and negative towards the agricultural sector. So I believe if you say to the youth of South Africa, we are offering the same opportunities to everyone, you will attract a lot more youth into the agricultural sector.
Good question. I'm sure the panel is ready to go on that one, my good sir. Thanks for that, Derek from Kroonstad. Yes, sir. Yes, black youth, there you are.
Speaking to Andile Khumalo.
Sorry, I didn't catch your name?
Andile.
Ah, what a lovely name you have, sir.
So I'm an IT graduate at Senvis. I come from Durban. I just came here in Senvis in 3 months. I've noticed that the environment here is different from Durban.
Please put the microphone closer to your mouth, sir.
I've noticed that the environment here compared to Durban is different, especially in farming. But I'm also a master's student in UKZN. My master's is basically on big data, looking at farming, what information you can use and stuff.
Yes.
Well, there is not much investment like in funding towards like supporting like research students towards farming, or supporting like if you want to do research, there is not much support to that. There is like NRF and stuff, but they don't specifically focus on farming and big data. For example, currently, I would say big data is changing a lot of things in the world. You can learn a lot that can help like farmers make better decisions about whatever problem they are having, like climate and stuff.
Yes.
So, is there funding towards that?
Okay. Funding for research around big data and the industry. And now we're going to call it agribusiness. That's the deal, right? All right, one more.
Hi, my name is Moses.
Hello, Moses.
I just want to ask a question. I hear the talk is more about internships and not enterprise development. Are we moving away? Are we saying that we should move away from enterprise development and towards internships?
Oh, sorry, before we move on the microphone, clarify for everybody, what do you mean by enterprise development versus internship? What do you mean by that?
Okay, in my understanding, an internship is where someone who comes out of varsity goes to a company and goes and works there for the company. Enterprise development is where you've got an entity that you are operating as either within the agro space, and you are developed by corporates through your company that you own.
Okay, great stuff. All right, now I think this is a lot clearer to the panel. Let's take one more young person. I like young people. You guys are brief and to the point. Teach your parents.
Good afternoon. Okay. My name is Domifuti Mabuza.
Hello, Domfuti.
I'm from NW Mafikeng campus. So my question is what is the government doing in terms of improving and recruiting graduates, agricultural graduates? Do they introduce them to agricultural farming? Okay, is the government doing something to recruit or start programs whereby they will recruit and graduate students to, let's say, giving them land as they will be, to prepare them for future farming.
Okay, government programs around preparation for future farming. There's a man in his tie and his green jersey and representing his school. I feel like he deserves a microphone.
Good day to you all. My name is Theophilus Sesebe, and I'm from the Northern Cape Agricultural High School, which is the only recognized agricultural high school in the Northern Cape. Okay. And coming from such a school, where in the previous years, they used to produce vegetation for the local towns and surrounding towns, poultry, we used to farm cattle. Right now, in this age, or today, we don't do such anymore. We have the resources, we have the equipment, but it's just sitting there. Sure. So my question is, what does the agri industry do to ensure that people from a young age, especially high school levels, how do they ensure that they are still intact with agri? They still have the passion for it and love for it. Because today you'll find that most of the people who are in tertiary institutions, they chose agri as a last option. As a last option, not because they had the love for it and passion for it. Of course, there are a few who do, but most of them, they took agri as a last option. So my question is, how does the agri industry ensure that we still, or we fall in love with agri from a young, tender age?
I got you, Theo. Thank you so much for that. Yes, round of applause. Thank you.
I can answer.
Take us.
I'll take two at a time. Two at a time. So the young gentleman who spoke about the white youngsters Derek, not being accommodated. It's an interesting issue because obviously there's aspects of trying to correct the wrongs of the past, but yet we still need to move together forward together. And so as a FASA youth, what we're trying to do with that, and also tying in with the enterprise development, is that in the last 3 years, the work that we've done is literally just to find those that already got land, those that are already productive, those already running small enterprises, which are farming enterprises, and then trying to expose them to big corporates who would be able to assist them. So hence I was speaking about the support that needs to be coordinated. But what we also did to be able to do that is we developed our conference. You know about, you were there last year. So our summit, which is the annual AFASA Young Farmer Summit, we this year want to speak to the white farmers to come, to actually be part of this, because it's not about black or white. It's really about making sure that our young farmers develop and get supported and actually be advertised and marketed as well, just like Andrew said. So in the future, we hope to also be able to reach down to those in schools as well, and be able to also bring them along the way. But currently, we really need to make sure that our current farmers are supported well enough so that we are able to get the youngsters to be channeled into that direction.
Mkabela, can you help Derek? Because Derek has got a very sincere question.
The Northern Cape question.
No, Derek from Queen Studies is saying, I'm young, I'm white, and I see the opportunities in business, and I go and I get them, and I want to get them, and they tell me they want black oaks, not me.
Well, it's very unfortunate that he has to face things like that. It shouldn't be like that. You know, the people that are saying that kind of stuff are people that are trying to communicate the transformation message the bad way. Okay. That transformation is about excluding people. Transformation should not be about that. It's about everyone who wants to develop their talent should be able to do so. And I think that he may have knocked on 1 or 2 doors. I mean, there are many other doors that he should knock, and one of them should open. It's the same problem that was articulated earlier by somebody who said, well, we are told that they don't want the girls. They want boys only for internship. I mean, even that, it's so wrong. You should not be discriminated because of your gender. Similarly, you can't be discriminated because of your race. So we need all the skills to come together. We need to find a way where nobody is excluded. But there's something else which I'm actually curious about. I mean, I would love to put a question back to students. Why is it difficult for students who are interested in this area to form their own organizations, even before they leave school? Organize each other to say, You know, we're a group of students who are very passionate about agriculture. We're forming this company.
Okay.
We're going to go together as a group to IDC to say, well, from this technical college, we've got this business plan. We have no experience. We want to be given an opportunity either for internship or for funding, or they can even go to a farmer to say, we've organized each other. We want you to give us some mentorship.
Yes.
And we want to go with you to a finance institution.
Okay.
Together you're going to be our backer. So there's a lot of ideas that young people can explore. I remember attending your session last year. One lady who didn't have land but was passionate about agriculture. She approached commercial farmers next to where she lives. She said, look, I don't have land, but I want to farm. And they asked her, do you want to own land? She says, no, I don't want to own land. I want to farm. Once I want to own land, maybe I'll buy it. And then she decided on a very creative way. She formed a company. She says to this farmer, okay, give me a piece of land to farm, but I don't want to own it. It's your land. Let's agree on a percentage that you're going to get out of my harvest. And they agree on the percentage. And they have an agreement. If the harvest doesn't go well, they have an agreement what to do about that. She remains, you know, debt-free. So fortunately, that farmer was not using that portion, and that portion was not bonded. So he could actually give it to this young lady to farm. And she did that on different farms. Today, I think she's a very successful entrepreneur. She doesn't own a farm. Yeah. So young people can be very innovative about how they actually get around to realizing their passion and vision.
Okay. Derek, I do have some guidance for you, Derek. Where are you? It's important that you know, there's a book you got to read. It's called Outliers. Okay, make a note of it. Google it. You'll find it quite quickly. It talks about how successful people became successful partly because, yes, they're awesome, but also partly because of the stage that they lived. So the country they were born in and the time that they were born in. And they talk a lot about, you know, many things that you and I know, the likes of Steve Jobs and how Apple became Apple because he lived at a time when technology was kind of taking off. You live in a country where broad-based black economic empowerment is a very big policy. In fact, if it's not done properly, it's probably going to challenge how we all live, whether or not we have a home at all. So this policy is here to stay. It's not likely to go anywhere. If you are a white young man who wants to get into farming, you're quite passionate about it, but you keep hearing this answer, my advice to you is partner with other black young people who have a similar passion as you. The very point that Nono was talking about. Because that just gives you that edge to be able to answer the question around transformation. And in fact, when they ask you that, you can say, no, but I'm not alone. Here's my business partner. Because that's just the context that you live under. You know, as business people, we're not great when it comes to policies. We find ways to deal with them. So instead of hitting your head against the wall and trying to hate the system, that's the nature of the beast you're dealing with. My advice to you as an entrepreneur is find right partnerships and so that you can answer that question. And the next time they ask you, you have a simple answer to deal with. Andile had a question around research in farming. Is there anyone who funds any research, particularly around IT and big data and the benefits of what technology can do for farming?
No, I think it's only because the concept of big data, I mean, he can attest to this in South Africa, is only starting to gain traction right now. But I think if he talks to the guys at CSIR and find out, they're not really focused on agriculture, but I think if you have a discussion with them, you will find some bit of farming, of funding. Those who are also looking for financing, they're starting up their farming and then they're looking for some of the financing incubators. My good man there, Moses, is having some interesting stuff at Mqesa Capital. You might also want to have a discussion with him.
Thanks for that. Moses himself asked the question around, yes, Doc?
I want to add something. I think it's a very good question that he asked. It's a very important topic. In research in agriculture is core to agriculture. Agriculture is in such a quick changing environment that research is very, very important. And it becomes a concern for me if I look at agriculture that it's starting to lack. And we need to put effort into research in agriculture. So it's something, and the young guys sitting here is the next generation that needs to do that research. But they need the funding. They need the support to do that. And we need to invest as a country in research in agriculture.
Last comment from you, Anthony?
Well, I think a couple of the things cut across government, and I think people sit back and think government's going to sort everything out and pull us out of this. government's role needs to be to form an enabling environment. But us as agriculture, we need to grow the pie, not fight over the scraps that are left there. And with that, the investment will come, because in a thriving industry, there'll be public-private partnerships, and things will take off, and investment will go into research. If there's money to be made and an industry is thriving, all that will follow. It doesn't help to put the cart before the horse. And I think everyone sort of looks up and says, "Oh, government, please fix it." We've discussed here how complex agriculture and agribusiness is. So to get policies to understand all that, I think it's always going to be difficult. So yes, the environment needs to be created, but I think that there's a lot that the private sector will come to the party with when that environment's right, and when we're growing and thriving, and the opportunities will be there for everyone when we're growing.
On that note, Anthony, Everett came to me, not to rescue me. He came to me to tell me, time's up, you gotta wrap up. So let me wrap up on that note.
Don't wrap up. There's a man from Northern Cape who wants an answer.
Unfortunately, the man from Northern Cape, he and I will have to talk about this after the session. We've hit that time, and in our field, when it's time, it's time. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for sticking around and the great questions. A round of applause also to the panel. Thank you.
It is ordinary people that inspire us and give us hope. And here at Senves, caring for one another goes without saying. Our strength lies in our people and in you, and relationships that are built and fostered over decades. Senves, together we break new ground. Because things change, so do we.
With an integrated approach to business, our aim is to stay ahead of the times through solutions.